All right, you guys. This is a video on Logic Inc. It's going to be short. We're just going to review their quarterly SEC filing, and I'm going to give you why I think it could be a trade. And then I'll go over there and we'll go live. So on Friday, Logic filed its 10Q for the quarter ended March 31, 2024. Interesting. Principal offices are 230 Victoria Street, I got a bad eye. Bugis Junction, Singapore. Very interesting. I didn't notice that till right now. Okay, so we speed down. You know, they had loss and all that. They had some cash, but that's not the important part here. Let's just go over the business overview, what Logic is. It's a Delaware corporation in 2004, headquartered in New York, which is where I thought it was, until November 2nd, 2023, the company offered solutions that help small to medium-sized businesses in order to provide access to and reduce transaction friction of e-commerce for their clients. Logic solutions are provided or were provided through the Data Logic business, a digital marketing and analytics business unit offering proprietary data management, audience targeting, and other digital market services. Okay, let's just skip on down. Here's an interesting thing. I mean, it's kind of irrelevant now, but just to show that the CEO, Brent Sun, is able to pull together quite a lot of what I consider brilliant deals. The fact that Aubrey Advisors and other fronts for short sellers out there destroy the company, that's different than the skill at which a CEO working hard can create value. Remember, Wall Street, particularly in the low price stocks and on the NASDAQ, is a way to destroy companies, destroy shareholder value to the benefit of offshore representatives of our large funds, stealing money out of the markets. And it's just tough. No one wants to really see it, but it'll come clear at some point. But anyway, this all happened in the past, so it's kind of irrelevant to the trade recommendation. But in 2020, the company completed the acquisition of almost all of the assets of Push Holdings out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. They rebranded that to Data Logic. And it's a consumer data management platform, lead generation, online marketing, multi-channel re-engagement through owned and operated brands. Let's leave it at that. That was January of 2020. November of 2020, they acquired Fixel AI and the MarTech audience targeting platform. On March 29, 2021, the company completed the acquisition of Rebel AI. Well, here's an important thing to remember. I'm not going to get bogged down in the details, but at the end of 2021, they spun out a thing called GoLogic, and they retained, it says here, 26,350,756 shares. Those are basically in the market worthless right now. It's not a big deal. But if something were to happen with GoLogic at some point, we own those. Okay, so let's move on to Data Logic, which I just explained where that came from. It was the Push Holdings acquisition. So in September of 22, the company and the company's wholly owned subsidiary, Data Logic, a Nevada corporation, made a merger agreement with Aubrey SPAC 1, a Delaware company, and Aubrey Merger Sub, wherein the merger sub would merge with and into Data Logic, with Data Logic being the surviving company. At the closing, Aubrey will deliver to the company $114 million worth of shares. That's actually for collective audience. Oh, I see. Okay, so let's just read the whole thing. At the closing, Aubrey will deliver to the company, that's Logic, 114 million of shares of Aubrey common stock at $10 per share. Also, at the closing, the company will issue a dividend to its shareholders on a pro rata basis equal to 25% of the aggregate merger consideration shares payable to the company. I don't want to get bogged into this. This is weird, I think. May 1, 2023, the company and Data Logic entered into a merger agreement to remove the requirement that Aubrey have at least 5 million of net tangible assets. That's how they got in trouble. It's a setup. On June 8, 2023, they entered into a second amendment with basically saying that this listing DLQ, the survivor, will be listed on the NASDAQ Global Market, which is a slaughterhouse. And then there was non-compliance. On July 20, 2023, Data Logic, Aubrey, and the Aubrey Merger Sub entered into a third amendment. They removed provisions related to the transfer of certain intellectual property assets of Fixed AI and Rebel AI. They changed the name of the surviving company to Collective Audience, and they increased the senior financing facility by $5 million, from $25 million to $30 million. Remember, this is a setup by Aubrey advisors. The extra $5 million went to lawyers, and it went to the so-called financial company, the financial, I don't know what you want to call it, introducer, advisor. They left intentionally, or because they don't have the competence. Aubrey advisors left the company with no money. That's just set up to fail. It's on purpose, in my judgment. Everything on this video is my opinion and my judgment. On August 28, 2023, Data Logic, Aubrey, and the Aubrey Merger Sub had a fourth amendment they increased the number of shares being distributed to public shareholders from 25% to 33%. That's why we got that, that, I forget what it was, 8-1. And they reduced the lockup provision from 75% to 53%. See, as you get farther down the road with Aubrey Advisors, you get to the point where you don't have alternatives, and Aubrey Advisors can turn the screws on the CEO and on shareholders. Remember, Aubrey Advisors deserves their clients, because they're just a front for hedge funds like Polar. Their clients deserve all the juice in the lemon, not you. It just always gets me worked up. All right, let's move on. So that's a little bit of the Aubrey Advisors nightmare. But let's get on to why it's a long filing. There was a reverse stock split. Every 13 shares of the common stock were reversed to 1. So again, as you guys know, and Aubrey Advisors knows this, and Polar knows this, and Chadron knows this, when you reduce the maintenance requirement from 13 shares outstanding to 1, you release money and reward the criminal activity of selling non-existent shares. But who cares? Let's stop fighting it. All right. They had a loss per share for March of 0.0043, but that's not the reason for the trade. Okay, so then after the terribly managed and the terrible results of Aubrey Advisors, who's sponsored over 100 SPACs, somehow they felt that the company would survive without any money. And, we don't know who has been shorting Logic, but somebody has. Anyway, so the subsequent events. Logic signs a letter of intent to acquire privately held biotech company MedLab Essentials at a $100 million valuation deal. I am not going to, because I want to make this short, but there's roughly 242 million shares outstanding of Logic. And they put out a press release, unfortunately it's on my other desk, that we as shareholders would have 15% of the newly, this is going to reverse merge into Logic, we will retain 15%. So if you do a simple formula, which is 242 million shares, or whatever the exact number is equal to 15% of X. You can solve for X, and then you know how many shares, because then you take X and you minus the 15%. You know how many shares to give to MedLab. You have to ignore what Aubrey's Advisors client, Polar, and the other one, in my judgment, they shorted Logic, they shorted Collective Audience, and there were other shorts too, ranging, I don't want to get all through it. Well, look, this is how the market works. It's all rigged, and it's just boring talking about it, really. So that would give, if they did what I did, just the simple arithmetic, 242 million, and remember there'll be a reverse in there, but 242 million is X% of 100 million. You come up with the number of shares that should be issued to MedLab Essentials. Now, if they choose to use the suppressed price that Aubrey Advisors has and their clients and someone else has pushed the stock down to, then you fall into their trap. And the trap is the MedLab's CEO says, wait a minute, the price on the market's here, I deserve more. Well, if that CEO gets into that mindset, the next acquisition they do, and the following acquisition they do, and the following, it will just be a slippery slope to dilution hell, like Collective Audience is going through now. And it helps Aubrey Advisors, the geniuses there, and they had two hedge funds. One is named Polar, and Chadron probably. This is a rigged game, so we have to fight against it. I believe very strongly that Brent knows this, and I believe that's Brent's son, the CEO of Logic. But I also believe the new man that's going to come in, I believe it's been announced, but I'm going to just zip my lip in case it hasn't been announced. But I believe it's all over. It's all over the documents. As MedLab comes in, there's going to be a series of other transactions that come in. If they stick to the arithmetic, if they stand together, hold, like that movie, if they stand together, they can blow these criminals out of the water. And that standing together is trusting their own valuation, not the valuation that Aubrey Advisors clients and Ionic and the Neo and probably some real shorts too, and day trader shorts in Logic need to get out of their positions. Remember, they artificially suppress the price by flooding the market in a way that the market allows. There are no systems in place. There are no buybacks. There is no settlement. So they just sell. And then it looks like to me with CAUD/Logic, the whole D-SPAC, they took at least $100 million out of the market. That's how I see it. And they want to preserve that. And that's huge kickbacks to everybody. And they have nice offices. They have nice lawyers. They're very impressive when they come on the boards of companies. And it's really easy to be a gentleman or a gentlewoman when you're purloining hundreds of millions of dollars out of the market and the cops look the other way. So anyway, if they stick with the arithmetic, which I believe for sure they will, but that's one of the risks. If they stick with the arithmetic, they're going to do a series of these reverse mergers. In the blast press release, Logic said there two different sentences. One said they have two more under signature, and then they said it's a series, first in a series. And they're targeting over 750 million in value. Well, if you do that same arithmetic, 242 million shares, and maybe you have to see if you can do them all at once. You can do the arithmetic all at once. And if I had to place a bet, it's at least 50-50. They're going to do the arithmetic all at once. That means there'll be two more deals coming in at the same time, essentially as MedLab Essentials. Will those two be enough to be at 750? Let's assume so. I have no idea. But going by the press release, it was unclear if the 750 million was, well, it was clear. It said a series. What wasn't clear is a series two or is more. It's probably more. But let's just assume for sake of argument that uh, uh, the deal is the next two come in at the same time, essentially, as MedLab, and they do the arithmetic. They don't do the dilution that Polar and the other hedge fund want, or who knows who it is, whoever the shorts are, both real and fake in logic. They really want these transactions to be done at the lowest possible price because it dilutes the value on a per share basis, and they get to keep the $100 million. When you blend it with Collective and Logic together, they get to keep that stolen money. So that's their incentive. The CEOs need to work with Brent to say, you know what, we'll do this calculation together. So 750 million, same basic arithmetic, 242 million shares equals 15% of, I've already gotten it confused. I used to do this on exams. It's always easier to write it down. Yeah, that's right. 242 million is equal to 15% of X. So you solve for X and you come up with a number of shares. So you issue those shares to the three companies, and at 750 million, all of a sudden you jump the value of the stock from a penny, where they got it down to 45 cents. That scares the shorts. And that's exactly what the CEO, Brent Sun, and the three CEOs should do. They should do this as an arithmetic calculation based on their valuation, not the ones that the criminals have put in place by falsifying the laws of supply and demand, by criminally working together, colluding, violating securities laws. And don't believe there's systems in place. The systems are in place so you believe that lie. This is allowed. So the way to fight back, thinking outside of the box, we have the valuation at 750 million. So you do this transaction. 242 million shares equals 15% of X. So you divide 252 by 15%, you know how many shares. Then you divide 750 million by that number of shares, it's 45 cents a share. Boom, boom, you're down the road, and that is a good transaction. And remember, they're going to do I don't have any computer here to use. Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Sorry, I do. So at 45 cents, they're going to have a $22.50 stock, I hope, on the NASDAQ. I hope on the New York Stock Exchange. The NASDAQ is just a better kind of killing fields for small companies. I believe the New York Stock Exchange is the place to go. Anyway, who knows? We'll see what the news says when it comes. But $22 stock with revenues and three therapies at a minimum, it's going to be very hard to short that stock. So let's go back and see if this news said anything else I need to read to you. Let's just say again, on May 21, 2024, Logic, a pioneering force in digital consumer acquisition solutions, today revealed the signing of a binding letter of intent to acquire MedLab Essentials LLC. And the website there is www.cgtmed.com. A trailblazer in cell and gene therapy innovation, in which Logic will acquire MedLab in a share exchange of newly issued Logic shares for 100% of the shareholder interests of MedLab. This acquisition, valued at an estimated $100 million, marks a significant milestone for Logic as it diversifies into the burgeoning biotech sector. There's a management discussion. They go back through that disastrous Aubrey shares nightmare. Of course, they had effects from the economic shutdown and they go through the numbers. Financing, let me see. During the 3 months of March 31, 24, we generated $500,000 from financing activities. We estimate that based on current plans, assumptions, and fundraising, that our available cash and cash we generate from core operations will generally be sufficient to satisfy our capital expenditures under our present operating expectations for up to 12 months. That's a huge thing. We believe that we have sufficient working capital to fund the expansion of our operations and to provide working capital necessary for our ongoing operations and obligations. This is something Aubrey advisors should have left in place, but they have the nice offices and the smooth talking board members. Okay. Let's make sure. I'm obviously, you can get this whole release on their website, and it was signed June 20, 2024. So here is let's keep it at 30 minutes. Here is my suggestion to you. Logic, which has been disappointing, no question, was hurt by the disastrous D-SPAC that Aubrey advisors ran. And whatever you think about Aubrey, you can't deny they were the sponsors. It was a disaster. So that blew up a lot of strategies. But here we are in June, and they just released the third quarter numbers. The whole point of a reverse merger, which has been announced, these things have been ongoing for over a year, is they come into a clean shell, and a shell with management and know-how. Maybe. In this case, that's what's happening. So you will notice that Logic traded for basically a couple of years in the broad 30 to 50 cents range. I can't see it. All right, there we go. Where the green circle is, all of this. These yellow dots are 80 cents, basically. So look how flat it was. And then came the Aubrey D-SPAC. It gapped down under pressure of fake shares and destroyed. That's Aubrey advisors. If I were a CEO, I'd think long and hard about hiring Aubrey advisors. But anyway, or having them on my board. But here's the collapse. The stock rallies back, trades down, and you've got basically a reverse head and shoulders. Now this is from, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks ago, because my printer, I've got to get it working. But I show you this because I think once if Logic breaks out from here, the next stop is this line, then the green line. And who knows, could it go in a little short squeeze to 80 cents or even $1? Could it? Maybe. But here are the numbers. The stock is already, this little trading in here is all in and around 3 cents. Once, if it breaks out of there, and I think it will, your first stop is 4 cents, then 5 cents. And I don't see any reason why it doesn't go to $10 cents. The gap, where Aubrey Advisors did such a miserable job of sponsoring the D-SPAC, that gap right there, very logical price target for a trade. That's roughly 16 cents, maybe 17 cents. Call it 16 cents. So there's a lot of reason, if it broke through here, to think there could be a short-term squeeze. But I'm not recommending that. I'm saying you can buy the stock here for 3 cents. I read to you the quarterly. They said binding letter of intent. That deal, if they use the arithmetic, is worth 6 cents a share. They announced a series of reverse acquisitions, which will be worth over 750, with 2 going to be signed imminently. How does the market react to that? But 750 million at using the arithmetic, not what Aubrey Advisors clients and others may have done, is 45 cents a share. Well, 45 cents gets you to the top of that green line. That circle here, that's all 45 cents. That's a logical place for it to go to. So my point is, you can buy it for 3 cents now. I wouldn't clamor and run it up, just bid for it. Buy it at 3 cents. And based on what we know right now, sell it at 15 cents. That's a trade. Makes 3 times your money. If when we read the announcements, if we can glean how big this is going to be, could it be $1 billion company, $2 billion company? We'll find out. I have no idea. I'm not promising that at all. I'm just saying we will learn things as this is announced. All these series of things are announced. But what I'm suggesting to you is there is a short position. I wouldn't count on a big major squeeze at all. But will the criminals continue to sell it down or try to book their profits? I think they'll try to book their profits. At 3 cents, the first announcement is worth a double of your money to 6 cents. Will it trade there? Time will tell. But that's supposed to be closed by the end of July, binding. The next 2, or the series, whatever the definition of series is, in the press release, over 750 million. If logic uses arithmetic to calculate how many shares to issue, instead of the artificially manufactured and suppressed price, that's 45 cents a share. Question is, will the criminals continue to try to short it, or will they cover? My guess is they cover, and I think you can see a 2, 3, 4, 5 times your money. 3 times 5 is 15. So it's up to you to set your targets, and we'll see what the news does. With that, I'm going to say good morning and get to setting up a live call for later today. Thank you. Cheers.